There we go. Now we're live. Welcome everybody. This is of course your boy Bernie here on the charge. Just hopefully everyone's having a great Friday. Today, of course, like I said, and as I promised, Brad really wanted me to hold this conversation back. I really wanted to talk about it on Wednesday, but obviously they had a game today, so we kind of have that perspective as well. So I'm glad we actually did hold off on it because obviously Jalen Green did not have such a great game as first one, but came back with the second game very well. But before we talk about all that stuff, like I said, this is your boy Bernie here on the charge, giving the latest NBA news and rumors and also basketball opinions. Hopefully you guys are having a great Friday, like I just said. I'm joined with my boy Brad. Brad, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, man, we got. There's been a lot of basketball kind of going on right now. You know, we got LeBron James kind of having an MVP run. We'll talk about some MVP shenanigans going on as it pertains to one player from the Golden State Warriors. Not sure why this keeps happening each and every year. Like I said, we'll talk about the G League stuff with Brad. Logan should be joining us relatively soon. If not, he should be here now. Oh, okay, yeah.
What's up, my guys?
What up? Alrighty.
Good to hear y'all beautiful voices again. How was your guys' Super Bowl weekend?
Man, I'm doing great. I kicked my feet up. I told you what the Bucks would do.
You did.
I was devastated. It hurt. It hurt a lot.
Man.
As a fan, man, it sucked to watch.
Yeah.
As a football fan, it sucks, but as a Brady supporter, you love to see it. You love to see it because what's the one thing I told you guys? The two people you don't bet against in sports, LeBron James and Tom Brady. And he proved me right. I mean, we obviously don't need to go more into detail about it as that was a butt whooping of a lifetime. But with that being said, let's move on to kind of the subjects that we got to talk about today. Let's start off with the John Collins news first, and then we'll kind of move over to the G League stuff because I think the John Collins news is interesting. Because you know that John Collins is, he wanted the extension from the Atlanta Hawks, didn't get granted that extension, and then all of a sudden now we're seeing, there's be some discontent, and now the Hawks are more willing to give up John Collins than before. So, without further ado, I'll turn this over to you, Brad and Logan. And Brad, why don't you go first? Like, what do you make of the trade rumors, and also what do you think should be the move for the Hawks and for Collins himself? Like, what should be the move?
Yeah, I think the trade rumors they're probably true. I do think the Hawks want to move on from John Collins, but I also think they're false in the sense that they have suitors, because I can't really think of a destination that works well for him and also gives the Hawks a good return. Like, he's a borderline all-star player, so whoever you get back either has to equal that to help your team or is going to be less than that, which doesn't really help you. So I can't really see a destination that fits perfectly for him. Maybe the Spurs.
Families facing food insecurity.
You're not getting the best value for John Collins with that kind of a trade. I think they end up having to pay him and then trading him after. We've seen that a lot in the NBA.
Logan, what you got for us?
Well, I think this guy is a guy you can plug in, fill that 4 spot. I would see 4-3 or 4-5.
It's like a 4-5.
I mean, he can. I feel like get plugged in on any role on a contending team. But if he gets put at Sacramento Kings type of position, he's gonna fall off, I believe.
I mean, here's my take on it. Like, the thing with John Collins, I think he's a tremendous player. I think my boy Josh is more of a Hawks fan than I am, which, it's rare to find a Hawks fan these days. Well, I mean, maybe with Trey, it does help a little bit more. But, with the Atlanta Hawks, I thought this team was kind of set up and built up for success. And obviously, we had Trey Young and John Collins kind of have a little bit of a spat. Not like a huge one, not one that's like, okay, this is going to be blasted in the media. But you saw them kind of be, upset with one another about kind of the moves that they were trying to make, right? About the film session stuff, John Collins being like, yo, Trey, you got to move the ball a little bit more. And Trey Young basically saying no. And so I definitely could see this, kind of what it led to, this sort of trade rumors about John Collins. And to be honest with you, I think me and Brad, before the show started, we talked about it. Like, we cannot see like a great fit for John Collins on any other team. I mean, I'm sure there's some, and maybe people in the chat, if you are in the live chat, put it down in the comments. But I don't necessarily see a team that could, or that wants to trade him, that would give him that much. I mean, I've seen all the NBA Twitter talk about like, oh, we're gonna trade away all this like garbage that like role players and second round picks that are going to equate to the level of a John Collins, because like you said, Brad, he's a borderline all-star player. So like, how are we going to get to the point where John Collins gets that trade? And I just don't see it, in my opinion. Like, I just think he's going to stay. I could see something where like he's going to be put on as a restricted free agent, and then the Hawks have to decide from there, like, okay, we're either going to keep him or we're just going to let him walk.
See, do you think they might take less value for him instead of just letting him walk? Do you think they would kind of do like an Andre Drummond type trade and just say, "Fuck it, we'll trade you for 2 second-round picks just to not have to pay him"?
Nah, I mean, like, what?
Isn't his contract up at the end of the year?
Yeah.
So it's like he either resigns with Atlanta or he walks.
Or he walks, yeah.
And as you can see, I mean, he's already been offered that $90 million. He's looking for a bit more.
Which I think the Hawks should give him, but obviously the Hawks have different plans, and I think they're trying to build a different way, and John apparently doesn't fit the mold or the scheme is what they want to run. But I do think that they should try and re-sign him. I don't understand what the difference is between if you want to pay him 100 mil or 90 mil. I mean, I understand there's like a 10 mil difference, obviously, for my math from math aficionados out there trying to make fun of me for that one. But I think that what they want is like 160 million. I mean, the Hawks already spent 160 million on Bogey, Danilo, Rajon, and Chris Dunn. So it's like I'm sure they don't have as much cap room as they would like.
Yeah, that's the
they
thing,
might as
right?
well sign John.
You might as well, but at the same time, a lot of people I don't think realize how much money they really spent between just those 4 players.
They should not have spent that much for Gallo. That's all I'll say.
At all. He's just collecting a bag.
But
I mean, it's tough to pay a guy, 120 plus when you already got 160 tied up between guys that aren't even starting.
yeah, one guy's hurt, two guys are hurt. All 4 guys are are injured right now, which is actually kind of ridiculous when you think about it. Obviously,
Gallo played today.
Gallo did play today, Rondo didn't, and Chris Dunn is like MIA. I have no idea where Chris Dunn's at. I feel like he's been MIA since he got traded. Or sorry, I don't know. I think he signed actually, or maybe he did get traded. But either way, Chris Dunn has been MIA. Rondo has been kind of here and there in the lineup. Gallo's been hurt off and on, and now Bogey had the big injury, so he's not going to be playing this year, it looks like. So I think at the end of the day, when it comes down to this John Collins stuff, Brad and Logan, I mean, what team do you think, if they were to be forced to make that trade, what team do you think could he go to that would be like a good fit without, having to think about trade pieces and stuff like that? What team could use him?
I would say the Pelicans could use him because their offense is terrible, and he's an offensive firepower. He can shoot, spread the floor. He loves to get to the rim, has a little mid-range game, and he'd fit perfectly next to Zion in this modern era. So they're both interchangeable at the 4 or 5, so it'd be like the perfect fit for him.
I might throw maybe a little off here. Just throwing this out there though, the Phoenix Suns have Boyd at that 4 spot, and right now it's getting filled by Crowder, Kaminsky, and Ayton can, I guess, slide down occasionally, but they don't have that true number 4 like they tried to draft a few times in the past few years. John Collins could be a nice fit there and take away that kind of option of starting Kaminsky over Crowder, over Cam Johnson. I mean, those 3 guys are good as a whole, but if you had a starter like Collins coming in there, that offense gets boosted, and the defense. I mean, I don't know. I think that would be an awesome fit.
I like that fit actually because they do have a gap at the 4. But do you think John would be happy there with? Because he likes to score, and Chris Paul's going to have the ball, Devin Booker's going to have the ball, Ayton needs his shots. He'd probably be like either the 4th or 3rd option.
I think I see John Collins a little bit of a more physical Kelly Oubre, and Oubre played pretty well in Phoenix in that role. He was obviously more the 3 spot, but I could see him fitting in well just because he would be getting that ball. And CP3 is gonna, dish it down there. How well can Collins shoot?
I think he's shooting a career high from 3 this year, if I'm not mistaken.
We can look at I'll look at the stats for you guys. So this year, Collins is obviously above his career average in points, tied it with assists, but 3-point percentage, he's at 40%. So he's shooting a really good clip. Even his career is 37. So he's a solid 3-point shooter, which to me just boggles my mind as to why the Hawks are trying to trade him or not even pay him. Like, I think you could have a core guys of Trey, Collins, and whether you like Bogey or not like Bogey, you could have Bogey or Clint Capella, or maybe not even Clint Capella because he's kind of like a hit or miss guy sometimes. But with John and Cam Reddish too, Hunter. I mean, this team to me looks primed for, like I said, a big push going into next year. Obviously, because Bogey's hurt and he's really a big part of Lloyd Pierce's offense. So I don't understand why, why he's out or like why they're so cold on him. Because like I said, this is his career year. Like he's improved each and every year. Obviously this year, 140 or sorry, excuse me. I'm trying to see where his 3-point percentage is at. It doesn't show it here. Doesn't shoot like a ton. Shoots probably about like 150 threes a season from the last 2 seasons that he was playing. But like I said, improving each and every year. I mean, last year he shot 40% from 3. He was 59 for 147. So it's not like he's taking as many as like, guys like Curry, guys like even LeBron, for example. Like, I to me, it's like I don't understand why they're deciding that this isn't like the guy that you want to build around. And I don't know. I just think that it's kind of garbage. But in terms of teams that he could fit on, honestly, I can't think of a single one that like that's 100% where I think he could go. I mean, I think maybe the Celtics could use him, but it's like, what do you have to give up as the Celtics? I don't think they have enough trade assets to kind of get him. I think, Brad, you're right on the Pelicans. I think is a scoring threat from that big man position, even though, Zion is technically that 4 to 5 spot. I think you could slide him at the 3. Well, I guess no, because you have Ingram. I guess you could have Ingram, Zion, and Collins, and that'd be a great kind of front and backcourt together. Yeah. But
the defense would be atrocious, though.
It would be. 3. It would be, but I don't know.
That's why the Hawks want to move on from him. But I don't know how you get anything comparable in return.
Yeah, like I can't even think of a good trade.
I think they're aiming for a defensive-minded power forward, like somebody that can complement Trey, because John kind of just, like they had that little argument, which I don't think helped, about him wanting the ball more, and it kind of just proved them right. Like this guy only cares about offense and getting his shots up when he's averaging 22 instead of committing at the defensive end.
But do you guys believe that they actually have the space to even bring him back?
I think so, because
go ahead, Brett.
Since they drafted him, can't they go over the cap or something for him?
They can go over the cap, and basically he's a restricted free agent this year because this is still his rookie deal. So once his rookie deal's over, he's a restricted free agent. So that means that whatever team, like for example, let's say the Chicago Bulls decide to go for John Collins, then the Atlanta Hawks have the ability to match that offer that the Bulls gave And if they do that, then Collins stays in Atlanta. So it's like, I think Collins is a restricted free agent this year, so I think it just depends on like what the Hawks decide. Like the Hawks could either be like, yes, we're gonna keep you, or no, we're not. Like the same thing happened with Bogey. As the reason why he's an Atlanta Hawk now is because he was in that similar situation just last year. But I really have no idea what the like. I mean, I think he's worth the money. I mean, he has obviously shown that he's improved each and every year offensively. But like you said, Brad, I think, defensively, he's still a work in progress. That's the reason why Clint Capella has been working so well for them in Atlanta. I mean, it's just tough to find like a good fit because he's such a, I would say, tweener in the way that he's like, could be, very athletic, could put the ball on the floor, but also could shoot the ball well, but it's just like, does he fit more of that 4 role? Can he play? I don't think he can play the 3. I think he's really stuck in that, like, I want to say like Aaron Gordon role, where it's like you can either play the 4 or the 5, with the ability to put the ball on the ground. So it's just depending on what the situation is or what teams are interested in him. But I don't know, man. I'm having trouble figuring out what his best team would be if he decides not to go to the Hawks.
What about the Rockets?
I feel like they wouldn't want to. Yeah, that's why I feel like they wouldn't want to sign for him. They're kind of the same player, except Wood is way better defensively.
Man, I was just watching the Rockets game last night, and they started PJ Tucker. And I'm a PJ Tucker fan, but this dude he's in his like 18th year, man. I didn't see a reason for him to be started. I know he's a 3-point corner guy, but they even called him out last night saying he's been shooting pretty poorly this year. If you take a guy like that, slide in Collins instead, especially while Wood is out, it wouldn't be a bad combination. But I 100% agree. They already have that void filled with Wood.
Yeah, I mean, it's like basically you're going to trade Wood for Collins. I think that's what the Hawks would want. I think if that trade was to happen, I'm not sure if the Houston Rockets are willing to part ways with Wood like that.
I think I have a trade that works.
All right, let's hear it, Brad. Let me know what you got.
They got to trade him to the Blazers.
The Blazers.
I was thinking that, bro. I was thinking that too.
I think the Blazers are the perfect team. So the Blazers, they'd have to give up Zach Collins, and he's going to go for the low because he's been injury prone for like the last 3 years, and he's a good defensive big that would fit the Hawks is like whatever they want to do, and he can spread the floor too, play the 4 or the 5. Zach Collins, I know Nasir Little might be untouchable, but if they can get him, they got to try because he's like Cam Reddish body type, but way stronger, and he would probably play better than Cam Reddish has been playing lately because he's been pretty stinky. And then see if you can somehow land an Anthony Simons since they're already jam-logged at that position with Lillard and Gary Trent and McCollum. So Anthony Simons would be a good backup point guard over Brandon Goodwin, and that's how I see that trade going.
The only problem with that, Brad, that I see is that, like, defensively, like you talked about, like, it's just going to be atrocious. I mean, imagine a lineup with CJ Dame.
Here's my thing: they've never cared about defense to begin with, and they also have Rocco, so you could put Collins at the 5, or you could put Rocco at the 4, or you can put Rocco at the 3, Collins at the 4.
But then they're just going to be the Brooklyn Nets of the West, just a worse version.
That's true, but the Blazers have not shown to care about defense. They got Derrick Jones Jr., but he doesn't even play much. He starts and then they don't play him a lot.
Yeah, why does that guy start?
Literally just for defense, but he doesn't bring much to the table.
I feel like Derrick Jones Jr. is that guy that you want to have on your football team just to intimidate everybody because he's so big. That's like Derrick Jones when he jumps.
Because other than that, like, It's just frustrating because I know that he's a good player, but it's just where the fit is. One thing that me and
Or the
Brad
Nuggets?
that but then you got Jokic, you got Collins. I mean, that's just a backcourt defensive liability waiting to happen.
That's
Yeah, they're
also
still
true.
trying to work on Bull over there, who I also think is a major bust, but it's a whole separate conversation. Bull, if he does get the best man, that guy could be really good.
He's
mean-
working. I've seen some flashes.
I mean, me and Brad.
It's a baller too.
Me and Brad kind of talked about Sacramento Kings. You trade away Marvin Bagley for John Collins, just kind of getting that fresh restart for both guys. I mean, that's something that we talked about. But again, that's not one where, I mean, you even made the point, Logan, that if he goes there, it's just like, but I mean, I guess to be fair, he does have Halliburton and he does have Fox.
Sure, man, but he's going to want to get the heck out of Sacramento as soon as he can. I mean, that franchise has been a dumpster fire for a few years.
Very true. They're on a hot streak right now, but how long will that last?
I mean, they just Divock a year or two ago, and it's like he drafted Fox, and they had Bagley at 2, but
we all know how that we all know how that draft should have went. And that's the reason why Vlade
has been Buddy Hield, and if that's really the only thing that the Kings can hold on to, because Fox still hasn't made an All-Star game, which you put him on a lot of teams and he would have done that.
He should be in the voting right now. This sort of Klay Thompson propaganda is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's wild.
And a little bit of the Caruso propaganda. I'll give some Lakers fans a little bit of flack as well for the Caruso propaganda.
He's been in that conversation though for a while. They love that dude.
Yeah, and the Laker fan base is so big, so it's just he's gonna get in just off that. Not actually in, but like get in the voting, get some votes.
Yeah.
Does he deserve it? Everybody knows no. But is it a surprise to see his name up there so high? No.
Yeah.
Why people are obsessive over Caruso, I have zero idea.
He's a balding white man, that's why.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's a balding white dude.
Why. It's literally why. He looks like he plays Dungeons and Dragons, but instead he dunks every night, so it's
he's just that dude at the YMCA or like LA Fitness that you're like, there's no way this dude can ball out, and then he just like kicks your butt. And then you're just like, you get skunked like 7-0 or 15-0, and you're just like, how did this happen? And then you just look at Caruso just looking at you as he dunks on you. But yeah, I mean, like, just kind of going back to the Collins conversation again, it's like, we could, this is one that I think a lot of us are going to ask the fans just out there, if you're watching it live or whether you're watching it after the fact, like, where does Collins fit in this conversation? Like, do you guys like Collins? Do you not like Collins? Do you think the Atlanta Hawks should re-sign him? Do you think they should let him walk? And if you are going to trade him, what do you think his value would be? Like I said, let us know in the comment section down below, because we ourselves are having a tough time figuring out what his best position is and where he fits perfectly in. But let's move on to the next story that I wanted to talk about. And this, of course, Brad, you and I both know that this is some serious propaganda coming up from, I would say, Warrior Nation. And this is, of course, Logan, and you weren't in here at the beginning, but we got Steph Curry, and I'll read the story, and then we'll kind of talk about this. So this is from ESPN from Nick Friedel. Steph Curry is averaging 35.3 points per game and shooting 53 out of for 101 beyond the arc over his past 8 games. After a 40-point performance Thursday, Curry asked whether he'd like to be in the conversation for MVP this season. The game speaks for itself, said Curry. Those 2 MVP years are the exact same kind of conversation, obviously. That's an amazing accomplishment. And being in that conversation with all that we've been through these last 2 years means something. Those narratives make themselves as you go throughout the season, and my job is obviously just to be there at the level that I expected to be. And usually that means you're at the top at the end of the season. I really try not to get distracted by that because it taints the moment. And really right now, if I'm doing my job, then I'll be there at the end of the season, and that'll take care of itself. So, Brad and Logan, I like Curry. I think his game is phenomenal. I think he's a great player. But we do have to realize the fact that this dude needs a lot of help around him in order to be a very successful player, just like any player does. That could be said about LeBron. That could be said about Jordan. That could be said about, all these great players. But what I'm having a tough time figuring out is why a guy whose team is what's his team right now? 14 and 12, and I don't think they're in the playoffs as of right now. Like, do you think that Steph Curry should be, top 5 in MVP voting?
Not a chance. He shouldn't be anywhere near the conversation. They're the 8th seed right now, but it's just like, I think he's only in the conversation for marketing. They just want to make as much money as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough argument to make. I think on both sides. I don't think it's very evident that we should be saying, "Oh, he's not an MVP," and I don't think it's easy for us to say he should be within the top 5. But the case, I feel like, is that if we are talking value of a player, Bernie, you mentioned that you do need help as all-star to continue that type of caliber of play. He doesn't have a lot of help. And that team has still had more wins than losses. He's playing out of his mind. Without him, that team is it's
a bottom feeder.
Second. Yeah, it's a bottom feeder, man. and it's
Draymond?
Oh?
Draymond?
Yeah, Draymond's help.
Bernie, you want to comment?
I mean,
he plays defense and facilitates.
I mean, you could say the same thing about Andrew Wiggins right now. Andrew Wiggins is having a comeback season. Like,
I was going to say he's having a career year.
So I memean, he's gotten some help, and you got Kelly Oubre, who obviously we're not huge on, but he like a lot of people before the season said that was a great pickup. He was playing so well, and I mean, I get your point, Logan, about Curry kind of doing it like as a superstar by himself. Obviously, Draymond is help, and so are these other guys, but I do agree with you the fact that he is playing phenomenal right now. Obviously, at the beginning of the season, he was cold. He couldn't shoot. He couldn't even hit the bright side of a barn the way that he was shooting. But now he's kind of brought it back up a little bit. But this kind of the reason why is because it's always this narrative of you're trying to find ways to not give LeBron James the MVP. I've said this since Steph Curry won the unanimous MVP years back, and I still think that he should return that unanimous MVP. Maybe he should still get the MVP, but he's got to return the unanimous title. I think that the media was just full of just Curry, like, Warrior fan. I don't even know, like, Curry fans and Warriors fans just getting into all these reporters' ears about, like, how good he is and stuff like that. But, man, I just think that as of right now, I don't see him in the conversation just due to the fact that, for a guy that is the unanimous MVP, and I said this before, he should be really guiding you to, and he is guiding him to a playoff spot, no less, but, that's a play-in spot. So, the 9th or 10th seed, depending on what the rankings look like, they're going to have to play in that play-in game. I want my MVP to comfortably get me into the playoffs, like as a 6 or 5 seed, if you are going to be by yourself. And so that's the kind of standard I'm going to hold Curry to, and I'm going to have to hold his feet to the fire on that one.
I think it's a fair point. Going off of that logic, Bernie, I think it's a big reason why Damian Lillard has never really been a prominent top 3 MVP candidate, because he's never had that, top 2 team in the West.
Yeah, I mean...
So, based on that, you got to hold the same standard to Curry. And if we're talking that same standard, then there's no way he should be a top 5 candidate. By no means.
Exactly. I don't think they're not going to include Trae Young, who's leading his team to the 8th seed in the East. And if Trae Young wasn't playing for the Hawks, that team would be horrific also. So,
true.
A lot of propaganda with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think
what do you guys think? just a Trae Young topic. Sorry, Bernie, to cut you off. Just wanted your guys' opinion on this. Trae Young was an all-star starter last year.
What
And
about
his
it? Just
team, didn't make the playoffs. Do you think that's okay?
I mean, I don't mind it. The fans liked it. He was putting up big numbers. He also had the benefit of Kyrie being injured, and then
yeah.
Harden wasn't in the East. He's got a lot more tough competition this year. Last year, I think he earned it. That Hawks team was, pretty bad, and he was putting up some pretty big numbers. I don't think players should get slighted for how their team performs. A la like
When it comes
Bradley Beal. Yeah.
Yeah, I could agree with
MVP,
that.
though, different story though for that award.
Yeah, I think it's different. No, go ahead, Brad.
Yeah. I would say it's different just because they've made it different. They set the criteria years back that you at least kind of, they never really actually set it because there's no set criteria. But from what we've seen, generally the MVP goes to the best person on the best team, something along those lines. So to give it to somebody just for playing good on an 8th-seeded team it would make no sense.
Yeah, and I mean, just kind of from my perspective too, it's like, I'm not, the All-Stars, like, it's fan vote, it's media, it's coaches as well. So like the coaches also get to pick the reserves and stuff like that. And so, coaches respect the game. And fans also, they have their favorite players, and Trae Young was obviously one of them. But when it comes to the MVP, I think it's a little bit different. I think the MVP is, are you the most valuable for your team, and are you the most valuable for basically it's like, are you the most valuable for the league? And obviously the league and the media and their propaganda said that Giannis was that guy, even though I think LeBron James should have definitely been in that conversation. I think if it were not for the pandemic in those last couple weeks before the whole thing blew up, then I think you would have definitely saw LeBron James win the MVP last season. But I just think that a lot of people kind of forgot, kind of put a pause on the season, and I just think that LeBron James was just getting started for last year, which is kind of unfortunate. But he ended up winning the big one, which I think matters more for him, and also for just kind of the talk about greatest of all time. And so I think at the end of the day, yeah, it's a different award. And like I said, if you are the MVP, if you are this top player echelon, and if you want to be considered an MVP, I think you have to not only put up the numbers, but also put up the wins as well. W's have to be accounted for. I know that Westbrook didn't really have as many W's when he had his first triple-double season, which I think we do need to hold that a little bit, as and I just think it hasn't been done before, so I think that's the reason why the media voted it. But at the end of the day, like I said, for being a superstar player, for being a superstar, a unanimous MVP, or someone that is looked highly, like a guy like Steph or Dame or Trae, your record has to also match your output as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly.
So all in agreement, Steph Curry is not a top 5 MVP candidate at the moment.
Definitely not.
Not at the moment, no. Is he
I think
top?
Kawhi Leonard should be there before him.
I would agree with that. I mean, is he top 10? Maybe. I mean, I think you can make a conversation for him being top 10, but top 5, that's already crowded by, LeBron, Jokic, and Embiid.
Yeah.
And so you're gonna have to figure out what else, who else is in that conversation. I know that Paul George would love to be in that conversation, but we all know Paul George is kind of a fraud at this point.
Also the back-to-back fraud, Giannis.
Back-to-back fraud, Giannis as well. He's not having a great season either.
He's doing some frauding right now.
His shooting is absolutely terrific. And Brad, I forgot to send you that video. I'll send it to you after we stream about his jump shot, man. It is honestly sad the way that his jumper looked before and what it looks like now.
I think Quinn Snyder, he's just running some ridiculous defense on him right now. Giannis has taken 3 shots. They're just swarming him.
Man, I mean, the Jazz, they're playing. The Jazz are playing some tremendous basketball right now, man. I think we'll see about them. We'll probably talk about them maybe next week. I have a little bit more free time, so I can do a little bit more studying on them. So that'd probably be a project for another day. But as it pertains to, like we talked about, we go from Steph Curry, but I think the next subject, unless Logan, do you have anything left to say about Curry, or can we move on?
No, I think I got my point across. It's tough to make a case for a top 5 for him.
Exactly. And kind of moving on from the MVP talk, obviously every player starts off as a rookie, and that rookie route may either include college or the now known as the G League Ignite team, and that's the conversation that we're going to steer into. I'm sorry for the terrible segue, but we're going to go over the G League Ignite team that started. They actually played 2 games already. Today they played the Oklahoma City Blues, I think, or whatever their team is called, Oklahoma City Blue. But they actually played the Santa Cruz Warriors at the beginning. And so we talked about this from Jonathan Wasserman. He's a guy that I follow on Twitter. He's a great follow for like NBA prospects and stuff like that. So he actually has a grades of the top draft prospects from that game that they played against the Santa Cruz Warriors. And, we have guys like Dashin Nix. We got Jalen Green. We got Jonathan Kuminga, obviously Green and Kuminga being the top prospects in that. You got Isaiah Todd, and then of course as just like G League Ignite as a whole. So the 2 players that we're going to be looking at, especially in this one, is of course going to be Jonathan Kuminga and of course Jalen Green, the 2 prospects that could potentially be a top 5 NBA lottery draft pick between those 2, obviously with Jalen Suggs, Evan Mobley, and Cade Cunningham involved in the mix as well for that top 5 spot. So Brad, I know you watched it. Logan, did you? I know you watched it as well. Kind of talk to me about what you saw from the team and what you like or dislike about these 2 players.
Yeah.
Hey, I did not have a chance to pick this game up, so this is on y'all.
Okay, gotcha.
Well, for Jalen Green, I like the thing that stands out to you when you see him is like how long he is, just how long and athletic he is. This dude has Kevin Durant arms. His feel for the game is a little rough. In that first game, he was trying to do too much. He dribbles kind of high above his hip, so he doesn't really have the shake to get loose and get to the cup all the way. So in the next game, I really wanted to see how he would work on his off-ball movement and spot-up shooting. And he came back a lot better against that OKC Blue team. He had 21 points, showed a little bit of defense, showed some more feel for the game. I still think he's a top 5 prospect. I don't think he's a top 2 prospect. Some people were trying to say he should be a number 1 pick. I think that's crazy. But he's still a top 5 prospect and an elite projected combo guard, as long as he can get his handle right and figure out the defensive side of the game.
Yeah, and I'll talk about Jalen Green first before we go to Jonathan Kuminga. I agree with you wholeheartedly, Brad. I think Jalen Green obviously had a little bit of the jitters. Like, this was his first, professional basketball game that he's ever played. And I think that his feel for the game is still, like you said, a work in progress. And that's something that was evident by the way that he had 3 turnovers. He had 2 assists. He was 1 of 3 from the 3-point line. So he obviously didn't play like to the standard that we thought, okay, this guy is going to be an elite basketball player, and especially someone that we see as a top 2 player that they want. Like, the thing I do like is that he is willing to give up the rock. But like you said, he needs to work on spacing, and once he, gets rid of the ball, he needs to, spot up around the court, figure out where his spots and movements are, and get to this point where maybe Kuminga drives in, because Kuminga is the one that's really dominating the ball at the moment. He's the one that's taking the most shots, I believe, on the team compared to these other guys that are on this Ignite team. And he needs to do a little bit of a better job there. It looks like he's a Kobe fan with all the Kobes that he wears, but to kind of go back to his gameplay, 6'5", guard, obviously, like you said, combo guard, and he does dribble the ball a little bit high. Definitely came back in his second game. I think in his second game, like I said, he played. Let me see if I can find the second G League game if I can see it. Let's see here. No, that's the highlights. I think this is just this is the highlights. I'm trying to look for the stats. I think this is it right here. Looking at the box score again, he definitely played a lot better. 8 for 12 today, 103 from 3 points. So he's shooting about 33% from the 3-point land. Had a plus 7 in the plus minus category. So he's definitely playing a little bit better than he did the first game. But like you said, I think he needs to work on that feel for the game, and I think he's slowly getting there. But I think it's going to take a little bit more time. And kind of moving on to Kuminga, Brad. Like what I know that. You have a special bond with Kuminga. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that bond, and also what you think of his first 2 games?
Well, he's been amazing. He's been everything I hoped he would be so far, and more. That's my boy. That's my Congolese boy. He's straight from the Congo. I'm a cop a jersey as soon as he gets drafted. I don't care where. If he gets drafted to the Knicks, anywhere, I'm copping a jersey. And I'm gonna be rooting for him, pushing the Kuminga agenda. He's a future 2-way star. If we're being real, he's 6'8", long ass arms, big hands, and I think his feel for the game is something that impressed me a lot more. He's young and straight from Congo, came playing basketball at I think he started playing at 15 or something, came to America. But his feel for the game was pretty advanced. He's dishing out assists at a high clip. He's making good rotations on the defensive end. I know you saw that block he had in the first League Ignite game to save the game. Great rotation by him. There's some things he can work on, his turnovers, when to attack, because I think he knows he's so good that he kind of just attacks all the time, but he needs to pick his spots a little better. But all the talent is right there, man. I really think he's cut from the same mold of Kawhi and LeBron, Paul. I'm not going to say him and Paul George, but you know what I mean. 2-way stars.
I got you. Yeah, I mean, I think Kuminga is the guy that really popped off on the screen for me. I mean, first game, you just saw his ability to attack the rim. You saw his ability to just be a presence out there, and that's something like you said, Brad. That's you don't really get a lot of as it pertains to a young player like Kuminga. And the thing that I really liked about him is that he's willing to attack the basket. He's willing to score. I think 3-point shooting he needs to work on a little bit more. He's 1 for 7 his first game. I think that might just been trying to test out the jumper. He was 9 of 18, so it wasn't too bad. But like you said, the turnovers definitely. And he could definitely, like you said, be a 2-way guard. I like his game. And then in the second game, played a little bit better, 2 for 5, didn't shoot as many 3-point shots, but is aggressive. And that's something that you can't fault Kuminga for. That's something that you look at Kuminga and you see how aggressive he can be when he's on the court. 7 for 15, taking the second most shots. Jared Jack shouldn't be taking that many shots, but he is. Trying to get back into the league, so, trying to get his touches. But like you said, another turnover high game. Same thing with Jalen Green. He had 3 today. I think these guys are really trying to do a lot because they're realizing how Cade Cunningham and Jalen Suggs and even Evan Mobley, who I haven't really watched as much of. So I'm going to be honest with everybody here in the charge. I haven't really watched a lot of Evan Mobley highlights just because Pac-12 basketball is god awful, and I refuse to watch Pac-12 basketball. But I do need to start watching it for Evan Mobley. But, like I said, going to Kuminga, like you said, Brad, attacks the basket, does very well. I think he's a top 3 pick already. I think it's got to be between Suggs, Kuminga, and Cade Cunningham. I think those 3 for me are the top. Until I watch Evan Mobley, of course, he's kind of up in that echelon too. But I think those 3 guys for me are the top 3 picks in the NBA draft.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. Before Jalen Suggs blew out, I had Jalen Johnson from Duke up there, but then Duke's just had such a terrible year. I got it, and Suggs blew up. I got to give it to Suggs.
Logan, I know that you haven't really watched the games, but what do you make of kind of from the stats that you see, from the stuff that you've been hearing? What do you make of these guys? Do you think that I know you've been watching a little bit of Suggs and Cade Cunningham? Do you think that those 2 could compare to those guys?
So I haven't seen much of Cunningham yet. I've heard his name a ton of times. Based off of what Brad was talking about, though, with Kuminga, what is his ceiling? Why are you so hyped on this guy being such an effective? What is about his game, Brad, that makes him such an effective two-way player?
He's
Because I'm looking at
6'8".
his size. Yeah, it seems like a stocky guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's not like stocky, but he's strong. Yeah.
So is it the athleticism?
A combination of everything. I would say uh, mostly the body type, being, like LeBron and Kawhi, that kind of body type, 6'8", long arms, and then he's already strong, which you like to see in a rookie because that's usually what they have to work on is their strength. So he has an NBA ready body, and then the athleticism is there, which helps him with his slashing, so he can get easy buckets like that, and the rest of his game opens up his passing. Like he can slash, but if that was all he could do, I'd be a little lower on him. But since he's showing his passing playmaking ability and he's showing a jumper, then the ceiling for his whole game just goes up. You gotta expect that he'll only improve in all those areas. So I can really see him being like a top 10 player one day in this league.
So when you're
The
looking at a guy
things
like Jalen Green, what is the upside that Kuminga has that Green doesn't?
I think Kuminga impacts winning more because of the things he does on the court, like defense. He's already a better defender than Green. He can guard more positions since he's taller and stronger. That's actually an issue I have with Jalen Green is I think he really, really needs to get in the weight room. And I don't even want him to be, buff or whatever. Just get stronger because right now at his position, he has to go up against guys like, Brad Beal, and who's really strong. He got to go up against Zach LaVine, who's kind of built now. He has to go up against all these strong NBA players, and he won't be able to guard them, and he won't be able to get past them if he's not a little stronger.
So based off of that, Bernie, I'm taking Kuminga.
Taking Kuminga, okay. You're taking Kuminga over guys
Granted,
like.
I haven't seen either guy play yet.
Comes into the
But
game
just
and
based off what y'all have been saying, I like Brad's answer when it comes to the pros and cons of Kuminga versus Green. I mean, he sold me.
Yeah, I mean, like the thing I will say about Green that he needs to definitely work on is his passing and just kind of being more effective without the ball along with the ball. Like I think the problem with Green, and like you said, Brad, it's the feel for the game. It's the way that he kind of moves around. Like I think that he could be an effective player. The thing I just don't want him to turn into is just and especially when you spend so much like attention and energy on a top 5 pick. Like you want this dude to be able to do everything. You don't want this dude to just, I mean, unless that's like the specialty that you're going for as a team. But you definitely want to make sure that this player is able to do everything. And so, like you said, like I think Jalen Green could maybe get to that, but I think it's going to take a little bit longer as Kuminga is already, I think his floor is already kind of higher than Jalen Green's at this moment. I think it's higher than some of these other guys that are in the draft. I'm not sure about Suggs and Cade Cunningham. I think those two guys have also great floors as well. But I think Kuminga's right up there with those two guys. And I think it's really going to be a huge battle between those because I mean, the thing too is as well is that I think Kuminga commands the ball and the presence of demanding the ball more than I feel like Green. I feel like Green's a little bit more passive. And not passive in a good way where he's going to get dimes or assists, but more so like, okay, I'm going to let you do your thing and I'm just going to go chill over here. When you need me, I'll come and attack. I think that's kind of where I'm at with Jalen Green right now.
Yeah, exactly. And that goes with his feel for the game. Like you can't just, stand in the corner. You have to be a part of the action, cut or something, which I wanted to see from him on Monday, but he really, or not Monday, whenever the last game was, but he wasn't moving off the ball,
Exactly. I mean, we'll find out from here, but like I said, again, guys, this is only 2 games into their professional careers for both Green and Kuminga. Obviously, there's some other guys as well in this G League that I talked about. We got Knicks, we got Isaiah Todd, and Isaiah Todd, again, one of those top prospects that forego college to go into the G League, and he has really struggled. I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of feel for the game, it's hard to go from, high school and being Isaiah Todd, having his athleticism and height and length, and then having to go play against grown men who have the same kind of body but actually know the game. So the transition is rough, but I think he'll get there. I think he's really talented. The biggest thing for me with him is how switchable he is. He's
Mm-hmm.
6'11", and he can guard 1 through 5. So hopefully he gets there with his feel for the game.
Yeah, I mean, like when I look at him, it's just like I really think he would have benefited from going to Juwan Howard at Michigan. I think Juwan Howard would have, especially as a former big himself, I think Juwan would have actually helped him develop and grow. I think, not to make this like a position kind of situation, but I think guards are. I think for the G League, I think it's easier to train guards and forwards than like your traditional like centers and kind of like that tweener between a 4 and a 5. I just think that's kind of where Isaiah Todd would have benefited from college, in my opinion. But again, like you said, he's young, he's developing, he's growing, and this is, like you said, a place where he can, see where his skills are at the moment. I mean, obviously he sees that he needs to work on it. 4-12 from the field today in today's game, 2 of 5 from 3-point land. 7 rebounds, not too great, and also 2 turnovers for a center. That's not particularly well that you need to see from him. So I'm hoping he can turn it around. And again, the G League Ignite team has a lot of interesting guys on here. Some guys that have played before, some guys that have barely played any. And so we'll see what happens when this team. By the time this team, I don't know if there's like a playoffs for them. I think there might be a bubble later on, and that's when they're going to kind of play against each other and, play for an actual, trophy or whatever they play for.
Yeah. Are they in a bubble right now? I think so.
I think they're in a bubble right now, and I think they're going to play some sort of playoff. I think, obviously, the Ignite team is not like an official G League team like, the Oklahoma City Blue, but they are just basically an AAU team that was added on to the G League. For those wondering, like, why their stats with why they don't appear next to the other teams is because they're kind of like an AAU team put together.
I like Deshaun Nix a lot, actually.
I mean, I haven't really watched. I mean, to be honest, I haven't really watched much of Nix. I mean, what do you like about Nix so much?
He's got a good size. He's 6'5", and he's pretty big. And then, we were talking about, sound like a broken record, but feel for the game. His feel for the game is amazing, and I feel that's really important. Since he's not the most athletic person on the court, especially at the guard position where you have freaks of nature coming out every year, he's got to be really smart, which is apparent in his game. He kind of plays like a bigger Kyle Lowry, picks his spots, passes the ball well, moves the ball well, cuts, rotates. I like everything about his game. It's a shame that he has to play behind, 40-year-old Jarrett Jack.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that Jared Jack is, he's, no pun intended, jacking up all the shots, jacking up all the minutes. And I do get, like, from Jared Jack's perspective, you're trying to ball out so you could see if a team might sign you. Maybe the Lakers might sign you, or maybe the Nets might sign you. You're trying to hopefully one of those, like, playoff contending teams sign you. But I do agree with you, Brad, that I think it is a little, it sucks to see that he's taking up all the minutes from guys that, there's so many. I mean, there's like 2 players, obviously, one with the ankle injury and one with a DNP, which is, of course, this guy, Singh. I don't know much about him, but I know that he is a rookie as well. But like you said, Brad, he is playing 21 minutes, and it just sucks that they can't just like lower Jack's minutes just a little bit more, so a guy like Nix could get a little bit more shine.
Yeah.
Hey, can I throw something out there, guys? Looking at this page that Bernie's sitting on right now, is it really 2-20 in that Lakers-Grizzlies game?
It really is. I'm watching it right now. 22-2.
Oh,
actually.
my gosh, man.
Yeah,
Yeah. What is going on?
I've learned to not watch their first halves, actually. They just, whatever they do in the first half basically doesn't matter.
Yeah, you got LeBron James and you got Anthony Davis at a -20 at the moment, currently.
Jeez.
I mean, Anthony Davis, I mean, I think we should talk about it probably later on just because, the stream is getting a little bit longer. But I think we do have to talk about Anthony Davis and kind of his disappearance from what's been going on for the Lakers. He is such a great asset. He played really well in the bubble. You could see, or even just before the bubble, like, just in general last year. And then this year, it's kind of been a little disappointing, especially it's kind of one of my MVP picks. I mean, maybe we could talk about it now. He went 0 for 5 just now. I mean, what's going on with Anthony Davis, Brad? I know you're more of a Lakers fan than I am. Oh, looks like they got 2 more points. I'm not sure who just scored for them.
He got a dunk. Yeah, I just think it's the timing. They got off a huge playoff run. They went to the finals, won championship, and we all knew AD was, frail before. I don't know if that's the right word, soft, something along those lines. He just can't hold up playing a lot of minutes in a lot of games. So he's been coasting pretty heavily throughout this whole season. And besides his coasting, I think he's just having some mental, I don't know, he doesn't think he's as good as he is or something. It looks like he's not even Anthony Davis when he's out there. I don't know.
I mean, he's got to start picking up a little bit more. I mean, I know that the Lakers right now are in second place in the Western Conference, but if you lose a game like tonight against the Grizz, it does kind of lead into maybe some situations where they could potentially lose some games. They could get a lower seed, and then obviously, it does. LeBron James is so good, he can get out of anything. He's kind of like MacGyver with the way that he's able to get out of situations, but at the same time, you do, like I said, you do need your superstars. You do need some help, and I think that Anthony Davis needs to start coming back to life, to the Anthony Davis that we all know that he can be. And I think that might be a problem for the future for LeBron and just in general for the Lakers. I mean, if Anthony Davis can't be Anthony Davis for even let alone 70 games, I mean, that's going to be a huge problem.
I think, oh, wow, he must have heard us. He just got an and-1. I think their biggest issue is that they just need a big man to alleviate some pressure off of him, We all know he doesn't like to play the 5, and Dwight took a lot of pressure off his shoulders protecting that rim last year, and so did McGee. So we don't have that this year. Marc Gasol can't do it. Trez can't do it. I wish they would go out and somehow get Hassan Whiteside, and our team would be cool.
That would be a great pickup, actually.
I think...
I love the fact that Brad brought that up, though, as I'm comparing last year's Lakers roster to this year's, and just side by side, the size difference is just drastic.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's another guy that I like a little bit more for you guys, and I think it's the dude from Sacramento Kings, Holmes.
Oh, but there's no shot we get him. I
know there's no shot, but man, I love his game, man. I think he's one of the most underrated bigs in the league right now. I mean, I kind of viewed him as kind of like a Trez, maybe not as a better shooter, but like a Trez, energy hustle guy clone. Well, maybe clone's a little disrespectful to Holmes, but I see him as a really good player and a really good fit. I mean, if there was some way that you could get him, I think that might be something to look out for. But I think, like you said, Brad, and Logan, I think you pointed out too, for Hassan Whiteside, that's probably more of the route that they're going to go in.
Yeah, that would be the perfect pickup, I think, because Hassan's not a bad player. As much bad rep as he gets, he can protect the rim. He's been top 5 in blocks for the past couple of years. Whenever he gets a bunch of minutes, he's not playing on the Kings. So I would definitely welcome him with open arms. I think everyone else would too. You're just here to help AD.
Yep.
Exactly. I mean, especially with AD, he's starting to pick it up a little bit now. He started off 0 for 5 now, 2 for 7 now from the floor. I mean, like you said, I think, LeBron James has kind of, he carried the load the last 2 games. And, for a guy that's in year 18, you're asking a lot from one of your, obviously he can do it, but you just don't want him to have to do it all the time, because he can't play hero ball all the time, because hero ball, yes, it wins you a couple games here and there, but it's not going to win you, every single game. We saw what happened in that first year that he was by himself. with the young Lakers with Lonzo and Brandon Ingram and all this other stuff. Like we saw like how banged up he was, and he ended up injuring himself for probably the first time in his career where it's like a serious injury where he was out for what, 2 weeks, I believe, his first season. Something like that, where he was just hurt, and it was just it caused a situation where the Lakers had to be like, yeah, we definitely need a second superstar. We can't wait for Brandon Ingram to eventually, become a better player. Like we have to start making moves now, and I think obviously they made the right move in getting AD. But I think it does concern me a little bit, Brad, that like AD, just is not as, maybe not durable, but like the stamina is just not there.
Yeah, I'm not worried about him in the playoffs, just because I'll give him the benefit of the doubt off his track records. But it'd be, oh my God, he just dribbled off the back of his foot into a turnover. You know what? Never mind. We need him to pick it up. We need him to pick it up. Show me something. I don't want you to carry us all season. We're not a bad team. We don't need you to put up ridiculous numbers, but just show me something. Show me you're still Anthony Davis.
Man, is Horton Tucker hurt, or why has he not entered the game yet? I mean, I guess it's 133. I mean, I thought THT was supposed to be the dude that comes in as kind of like the role player.
Frank Vogel's probably experimenting. He's always experimenting, which I appreciate because you want to get those kinks out during the regular season. The Lakers can't hold on to the ball. Another turnover.
Ugh, just looking. Thank God I didn't start him in this game. I was debating it, but I was like, that's probably not the right move. But I mean, as we kind of wrap everything up, I mean, is there anything else that you guys are kind of like seeing in the league that you want to talk about, or anything like that before we kind of sign out of here?
There is something I wanted to bring up that was pretty relevant today, not specifically in the NBA, but just in sports in general, specifically Houston Texans releasing JJ Watt today.
Just Houston sports in general, like for all the players that want to go.
At this point, between the Astros and their whole scandal with the World Series, you got Harden now. I mean, this whole D-Hop to Chris Paul, and they lost Chris Paul. I mean, Houston sports are definitely taking a hit, but specifically though, Houston Texans, and it's pretty evident, me being a Cardinals guy, that we stole Hopkins fair and square from them, and see how Deshaun is now treating the situation, saying I ain't playing in Houston. Now for them to drop Watt, what are they doing?
I don't know, but I think
have no idea.
They need to start hiring new management. I think they just need to fire the whole staff there and just kind of restart. I mean, obviously, I know that Deshaun Watson doesn't want to restart, and obviously, he should be. Ooh, who just scored for the Lakers? Kind of going back to the point that you said, Logan, it's just like, I do think that they need to start, not saying like appeasing Watson, because obviously, have a lot more players on this team. Football's a little bit different. But man, like when it comes to quarterback, man, you cannot mess around with those guys. I mean, you have to treat them pretty well because they're gonna win or lose you games. I mean, we saw what happened with the Bucs this year. Going from Jameis Winston and being kind of one of the worst franchises to going to a guy like Tom Brady, and it changes your whole team. I mean, it's the same thing for Watson in Texas. I mean, there's a lot of trade rumors that rumors of him going to the 49ers, rumors of him going to. I can't remember what other teams. Yeah, I mean, there's so many teams that he's rumored to go to. So, yeah. I think Houston right now is kind of taking the L at the moment. They've always wanted, which is kind of weird to me because I thought Houston wasn't such. It's not a bad city. I think that Houston actually has a very good environment. I like the city of Houston, but they are. They're definitely not living up to the expectations that I think a lot of Houston fans, or even, I would say Houston fans, or even just fans in general, are just kind of like, how is this not working in Houston for any of their sports? And that includes basketball, baseball, football. Doesn't matter which sport. They just seem to struggle right now at the moment.
It was just shocking. I just wanted to hear your guys' input on it. I've never seen an NFL team, I don't think in my lifetime, clean house in 1 year the way they have. Between their GM, their head coach, their star players, just within 1 year, everybody's gone. So it's just kind of weird. And these aren't just scrubs. These are all pro caliber players. So I don't understand the move. I get why these guys are wanting to leave, but why Houston Texans are just allowing all of this just to happen without batting an eye really at it.
I guess I can get releasing JJ just because he's like on the back end of his career and he's pretty injury prone. But still, they probably could have gotten a trade for him.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking that, but at the same time, if I'm one of these GMs, I'm like, well, you're probably just going to release him anyway because he's, in his finals deal, he doesn't want to sign with you. I mean, I could see why these GMs don't want to trade for Waz because they could probably get him in the free agency. So it's like I get, the fact that they did release Watt. Obviously, he's a Texan through and through. But at the same time, like you said, Brad, like he's injury prone. His numbers, like he's the 20. I think from what I've read, he's the 21st defensive lineman in the league, which is pretty good for how many players there are in the league. But he used to be like top 10, top 5, and it's like the fact that his production has gone down dramatically has kind of shown you that maybe it's time to move on and figure something out. Like the question for me and the interesting one's going to be in the future is like, what do they do with Deshaun Watson? And what do they try to keep him? Obviously, this whole situation just becomes so toxic that, I don't blame a guy like Watson for wanting to leave because, it's a toxic environment.
Yeah, bad ownership. You got to get out of there.
Although you could really look at that situation with Watson almost the same way as we did with Collins. So what do you do? Now, Collins is obviously he's okay staying there. Watson isn't. But from the team's perspective, what do you do with a guy like that?
Yeah.
It's tough, man. That's a lot of money you got to give him, and he has to want to be there in order for him to sign that contract.
Yeah. I guess the difference is that, Watson is in, he just signed an extension last year, so he's there for, the next 4 or 5 years. I think it's like 4 or 5. I can't remember how many more years he has left on that extension that he signed last year. The difference between those two is that, Collins is at the end of his and Watson is just at the beginning of his. And so I could see the difference between the two. It will be interesting, like you said, to see, what Watson does and what Collins does at the end of the season and like what the moves are for those teams. Because obviously both franchises have control of those players' destinies in terms of they could trade those guys to the place that they want to, or they could hold on to them and just be greedy about the whole situation. But we'll see what happens. Like I said, it's a very interesting one, and we'll see if Watson can move or if he's just gonna stay here in Houston, and they're just gonna have to deal with whatever BS is going on there. Let's see here. And I think, as we kind of look at the box score, Grizzlies up 31-16 on the Lakers. This is going to be an interesting one to see how they come back from that. But with that being said, I want to thank Brad and Logan once again for joining me here on The Charge. Appreciate you guys coming on.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Always a pleasure.
Yep. Welcome to any time on the show. Whenever I'm streaming, whenever I'm going on live, you're always more than welcome to join. But anyway, guys, like I said, that's going to do it here for The Charge. Again, guys, we give you the latest NBA news and rumors and also basketball opinions. Appreciate each and every one of you that are in the chat or in the live stream watching right now. It's a pleasure to have you guys in here watching us and kind of talking and debating some interesting topics as we talk about, like I said, about the Lakers. We talked about Collins' situation. We talked about the G League team. We talked about Green, Kuminga, and many other players. Is Steph Curry an MVP? There are so many topics that we talked about here, and I appreciate each and every one of you for joining us. But while you guys are here, please remember to hit that like and also subscribe button if you are new. The more likes, the more subscribes, the more people are willing to watch us and more people are willing to, hit that subscribe button and also, get us popping and, in a situation where we're able to have big conversations with not only just me and Brad and Logan, maybe it might be some other people in the chat and we could see, a bunch of chat flying in. And that's something that I'm looking forward to here on YouTube. But like I said, guys, thank you once again for joining. We'll catch you later and we'll see you on the next video. Peace, guys.